Someone get shot? Someone got out of their car and shot one of the protesters.
He shot with.
Do you wanna sit on camera? Go for it.
A car drove up. We were taking the streets, and he shot Garrett. Garrett is the husband of Whitney, a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and he is her caretaker and has been for like 10 years. I think he pointed the gun at her.
Someone got shot, guys. Someone got shot.
Today I have Sass on, and you're gonna just go as that, right, Sass? We'll just
yeah,
go as
I go
that,
by
right?
yeah, I just go by Sass.
All right, so we're gonna go by Sass. He is in Austin, Texas. If you remember back, and if you do watch the mainstream media, which I don't as much anymore, but I catch it every once in a while. But he was on Andrew Cuomo. I mean, not Andrew. He was on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN speaking about an issue that happened in Austin, Texas, in a Black Lives Matter protest. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. But firstly, Sass, thanks so much for coming on the program. Greatly appreciate your time today.
Oh, absolutely, man. I love it.
All right. So, Sass, let's kick it around here. So, first of all, what made you want to go to this Black Lives Matter protest?
That's not even what it was at first. So I was, oh gosh, go all the way back to the beginning. So I joined an organization called Movement for a People's Party.
Yes.
And we were doing an action, like an event on the July 25th.
So that's Nick Brana. Sorry to interrupt you. Nick Brana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nick Brana. And we were doing a national event on the 25th, marches and these kinds of things. And I was heading up the one for Austin, and I decided to do a vehicle parade. So I did that earlier that Saturday, like around noonish. I had vehicle cars behind me, and our cars were decorated, and we were just honking and making noise downtown for like an hour. And there was originally supposed to be North University Mutual Aid Society, it's a mouthful, had planned a thing to amplify Black voices and like march on like the council person's home or something. That got delayed because of weather. That was the day that the hurricane hit. But I got home from my event, and somebody else had been kind of doing all this stuff in Austin with Movement for a People's Party messaged me, and he was like, hey, like, there's somebody else who I know who's doing an event in Austin today, and he's looking for speakers. Do you want to speak? And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm fired up. I want to do this. Let's go. And so what it was just an event to just stand in solidarity with Portland that was supposed to lead into the march with North Mutual Aid Society, Austin, North University Mutual Aid Society, which did get canceled, but he kept his going. And so I messaged him. I was like, hey, here's who I am. I want to speak. Like, do you want me? And he's like, I'd love it. And meet me at 5:30 at Austin Police Department. So I got there at 5:30, pouring rain. I'm walking around outside. I'm like, there's nobody here. Where's everybody? So I messaged him, and he's like, I'm almost there. I catch up with him, and we stand out in the pouring rain in front of Austin Police Department for a while. Over the course of the next hour, skies cleared. About 20 people showed up. He set up his PA system. I actually gave the first speech. One, or I guess two of the people, part of that first group of people was Garrett Foster, who was the person who was shot later that day. Obviously didn't know that at the time. So him and his long-term fiance, who's a quadriplegic, and he is her caretaker. That was the first time I'd ever been part of an event with more than like 6 or 7 people. They arrived, and it seemed like pretty much everybody else already knew who they were. He did have I now know an AK-47 type rifle strapped to his body, pointing down. Texas is an open carry state. This is totally normal. He was not the only one there who had open carry going on. And basically, what happened is over the next few hours, the event gradually shifted from standing in solidarity with Portland to a Black Lives Matter march, which was super cool. Totally unexpected. It was not part of the plan. But it was just really awesome. And I actually ran off back to my car. I had some like supplies from earlier in the day, and I like scribbled out a Black Lives Matter sign real quick, and I brought it back. And it was like when I brought back that sign and I held it up, it said Black Lives Matter. One of the Black voices who was speaking, I don't remember his name. I don't think he ever told me. He saw my sign immediately and was like, actually, I want to bring it back to this. That's what this is about. It's about Black Lives Matter. And that's when it shifted from Stand in Solidarity to Portland to Black Lives Matter. And it turned into a march because we had like over 100 people there, and we just couldn't all fit on the sidewalk because we were blocking the road. So that was super cool. This was like my first big march I'd ever been a part of.
And then can we keep moving on to what happened next?
Yeah. So this isn't like the heart of downtown Austin. So we were marching north up Congress Avenue, and then we were getting to the intersection with 4th Street, which runs east-west. And probably, a handful, a dozen or two of the protesters had made their way into the intersection, but there were, I'd say 200 to 300 of us in total, at least 100 people still on Congress, south of the 4th Street intersection. And a vehicle was coming from the west, so it was heading east toward the intersection. Let me see if I can use my hands in an effective way. No,
No
I'm not
worries.
and what they did is, as they were coming up to turn, they were going to turn right to head south on Congress. So where 100 or 200 people were, a couple hundred people were. And the thing that, and I said this on Cuomo that I want to make extremely clear, is that the driver intentionally and aggressively accelerated into a crowd of people. The driver incited the violence. So they're coming around the turn. I don't even know if they used their blinker. I think they ran a red light, but I don't really, that's irrelevant. I'm not worried about petty traffic laws in this instance. And this is corroborated by video evidence as well, because there's like at least 3 videos out where he didn't stop and wait for us. He didn't wait for us to pass because we were just marching. He didn't go slowly so we could let him through or anything. He accelerated into the crowd of people, and he accelerated through his turn. My memory, I remember him slowing down in the middle of his turn and speeding back up again, and the different video angles disagree with each other. It's weird, but again, irrelevant. And then he's accelerating into the crowd of people, and he's around the turn now, and he probably came within 5 or 10 feet of me, but I wasn't in the path. And he stopped. Yeah, let me raise up my hand. So he's coming around the turn, and he stopped, and I'm marching forward. Within 6 seconds of him stopping, and I now know, I didn't know this at the time of the Cuomo interview, there was nobody in front of the vehicle when he stopped for a good 20 feet. I remember there being people in front of the video, but I was in front of the vehicle, but I'm remembering it wrong. I wasn't focused on that. And within 6 seconds of stopping, he rolled down his driver's side window, stuck his arm straight out of the window, and started shooting into the crowd. And he shot off 5 shots. We now know that he was aiming for Garrett. I thought at the time it was indiscriminate, but 3 of the 5 bullets went into Garrett. After the first shot or 2, I turned around over my shoulder and I saw 2 or 3 more shots. I saw the flashes come off the top of the slide, and then he sped off. And then a different protester. I didn't see this happen, but I now know that it was a third-party protester, whole other person, had pulled out their legally concealed carry and fired at the vehicle as they were halfway down Congress. The driver immediately called the police, which is, again, as I said on Cuomo, this is how you play the game. You go to the authorities immediately, you get your story in first. That's how you get in as little trouble as possible. So he knows how to play the game. He claimed that Garrett pointed his weapon at the vehicle. That's BS. I've talked to many witnesses. Every witness I've talked to who did see Garrett, because I did not see Garrett, has stated that that Garrett did not raise his weapon. And that was one of the really instrumental pieces, is because of me getting the story out right away. And it wasn't just Cuomo. I interviewed with with probably a dozen different media outlets. Is what I didn't realize is that I was playing that game too, and I didn't even know it. Because on Thursday, the shooter's lawyer came out with an official statement, and it's all bullcrap. It's all complete. None of it's true at all. It said things like Garrett waved at him to lower his window, which is not true. None of that. It's all, everything about it is bullcrap. Especially if you look at some of his tweets or whatever. I'll send you the link if you want to show it.
Yeah, please.
Because his Twitter account's all hidden and everything now, so I have to go back and find the screenshot. But he had replied to some Trump tweet about protesters or whatever, and even we have to shoot them. We have to shoot them center of mass. I was Garrett was, at least in a literal sense, the center of our mass. But here's the thing though, is whether or not Garrett raised his weapon is irrelevant. The driver incited the violence. Texas is an open carry, stand your ground state. It's completely reasonable that Garrett would have raised his weapon. He didn't, but it would have been totally reasonable if he did. The driver incited the violence, and the driver, his name is Daniel Perry. He accelerated into the crowd, and then no, there was no conversation, there was no back and forth. He rolled down his window, pulled out his gun, and shot Garrett. And
now, was there people? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sass, but I just want to get this out before I forget. Were there people that almost got hit by this car?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there were a bunch. He almost ran over a couple people. Wow. And it was a couple people after he almost ran into a couple people. People started slapping his car. Who was there was one or two people who were by the cars it was driving by. It's again, totally reasonable. You want him to stop so he doesn't run over more of your fellow protesters, more of the people you're standing with. So yeah, he almost ran people over. It came really close. And I mean, again, think about it. If a vehicle almost ran over your quadriplegic fiance, would you not also put your hands on your weapon that's strapped to your chest? I think that's reasonable. There are two people I want to plug, neither of them are myself. So these are people who helped to get the story out in the first place. The first one is Brian Ben Simon. You can find him on Twitter. He scrolled through over 2,000 tweets the night of the shooting, and he found mine, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, can you tell me what happened?" And I'm really glad that he did, because it forced me to get my thoughts down. And I sent it to him, and then he broke my story, and then that's the next morning, that's when I started getting all of those media requests. He's an incredible reporter. You guys should absolutely follow him and support him. Mm-hmm. The other person I want to promote is Hiram Gilberto, Hiram Gilberto. He's been live streaming all these BLM protests and everything in Austin. He's fantastic. He's gotten live streams. His video was the first one to come out with this event with the shooting. There's another video of me giving a speech the next week. There's another video of me having a productive conversation, an honestly productive conversation with somebody who disagreed with BLM. Leslie, hang on. Last week, you can find it. So that was August 8th. If you skip to 56 minutes in, you watch me talk for 20 minutes, and then at an hour and 14, I come back for a few minutes and reflect on it. He's gearing up to go to Washington, D.C. to do the same thing and report live. So go find him, Hiram Gilberto. You can find him on Facebook and Twitter. Send him some money. I think he's underestimating how much Washington, D.C. costs, and he needs some money. So just go send him $5-10 or something. These are people who are really fighting to help us get the word out about what's going on.
Sass, and how can people find you on Twitter and Facebook or whatever it may be?
So I go by Sass. My full name is James Sazanowski. This is kind of a recent shift, so I've been kind of changing my name on everything. But you can find me. My Twitter handle is @jman722. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I have a YouTube. I don't know if it says Sass yet or if it still says James Sazanowski, but I put up a recent speech that I did on there, but that's nothing crazy. I'm not here trying to promote myself right now. Sure. I really want you to focus on these other two people. They really need the support right now.